So, Resident Evil, welcome to Raccoon City. This one's a doozy. I'm not too fond of this movie. I went with my brother on opening night on the 23rd, and I don't think I've been more disappointed after seeing a movie than this one, at least not recently. But before I get into what I hated about it, or rather disliked about it, hate is a rather strong word, let's talk about what I liked about it. I liked the overall aesthetic of the movie. I liked how dark everything looked. I liked how they stayed true to the gothic nature of the sets and how the buildings were designed. I liked how they kept Raccoon City a smaller, more suburban town than the big city that they decided to go with for the remake games. I love what they did with the Spencer Mansion. I love how they made it look. It looks like it was ripped straight out of the game, for the most part. And I love the design of all the monsters. Except one that I'll keep for my dislike. I liked the liquor. I liked Lisa Trevor. I liked the zombies. I preferred the zombies that you see later in the movie in the mansion over the ones that you see in Raccoon City, which are the freshly sick people, because they look just like normal people, when the ones in the mansion were more rotted and stuff like that. I prefer those zombies more, because those are what they look like in the game, but if it's like the game, I'm gonna like it more. I liked a lot of the music. Now, I'm not certain, I didn't do any research on this, but I think that some of the soundtracks from the games, the first few games, I think namely Resident Evil 2, were taken and put into this movie, slightly remixed. And I'm not talking about Moonlight Sonata. Moonlight Sonata is in the movie, but I'm talking about the original soundtracks. I feel like some of the music from the games are in the movie, and I like that. But even if it's not, it still sounds like it, and I like that. It really kept the tone. I'm not gonna say it kept the tone for the movie, because the tone itself is all over the place, but it kept how Resident Evil music should sound. There's hundreds of references to the games, whether that be visual or lines that people are saying. They reference the Jill sandwich line.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
Yeah, there's visuals taken straight out of the games. There's a lot to this movie that pays homage to the game, and that's why I kind of feel so bad ripping on it so hard, because you could tell that they tried hard to stay true to what it was, but they just didn't. They just didn't in every other aspect. And let's get into that, because that's actually the end of my list of things I liked about the movie. So let's get into what I disliked about it. The dialogue. There was a lot of lines. There's a few lines that I liked. Some funny ones. There's one funny line that I liked. In my opinion, if you're making a Resident Evil movie, you shouldn't try to make people laugh that much. But they did, and I wasn't that much of a fan of that. But the dialogue was weird and kind of cheesy and kind of all over the place. And I'm okay with a few cheesy lines here and there, because that's how the series started, but not to the extent that they did in this movie. I really didn't like how the characters spoke to each other. It felt weird. It didn't feel like a Resident Evil movie in the sense of how the people talk to each other. That kind of ties into what my other criticism was, which is a lot of the characters don't act like their characters in the games. Now, when judging material like this, the original material is always going to be the true material, at least in my eyes. And I'm going to keep Leon his own separate problem. So I'm going to reference Jill, for example. Jill is my favorite Resident Evil character. And she didn't feel like her in this. I don't really mind that much if you cast people that don't look like their in-game characters, as long as it's not too much of a difference. But even then, it doesn't matter as long as they act and feel like the characters. And Jill didn't, Leon didn't, Wesker didn't. I feel like the only characters that actually kind of felt like their in-game counterparts were Claire and Chris. I felt like those two But maybe not even Claire, now that I think about it. Chris was probably the most accurate to his in-game person. Either that or Birkin. But Birkin was weird too. There was a lot of weird things about this movie. And that's something I have to mention now before I get too off topic, is that there was so much wrong with this movie that I'm probably not going to mention every single thing that I disliked about it, because like every single thing that I like as I was watching it, there was something going on that I didn't like. So I probably won't be able to mention everything I didn't like, but I'm just trying to, when I wrote my notes, I was going off of like the things that stuck out to me the most. Oh, and this bothered me like a lot throughout. And I mean, you can scroll through my channel. I haven't even made a film yet, but in my limited knowledge of knowing what looks right and what doesn't when it comes to editing, this bothered me big time. And it was the timestamps. And you know exactly what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. There were these timestamps throughout the entire thing that were like, it was like 2 a.m., 4:23 a.m. It was unnecessary, and it really broke up the pacing, I felt like. Like, it would be like a scene, and then it would cut to like a black screen, and it would be like 3 in the morning. And it's like, you don't need that. We know this is all happening in one night. We don't need you telling us that an hour has passed. It just wasn't necessary. And I feel like they did it because early on in the movie, they mentioned that Raccoon City would be destroyed at 6. And I feel like they were trying to bring like a sense of dread by like showing the time is like counting down. But you don't need that. You don't need timestamps letting everybody know what time it is. It's unnecessary. And it got really annoying by like the 5th time that they did it. It's throughout the entire movie. I thought it was really, really stupid. I hated it so much. And before I get into this fourth thing, I want to mention that, again, I'm really passionate about this, so my critique might not be the most concrete, but this game, the first Resident Evil, like the remake at least, was one of my favorite games when I was a child, and having it, like, at face value, like looking at the trailer, you can look at my breakdown of the trailer, I was really excited about seeing this movie because I thought it was going to be finally a movie version of the games. Like, I thought that's what it was going to be, but it wasn't, and I was extremely disappointed. So that's why I'm kind of emotional about the whole thing. So my critique might not be the most concrete because it's such an important topic to me, and like, I just felt like I was done wrong. So the next problem I had with it was the entire like 3rd act of the movie. It felt incredibly rushed. It was all over the place, and there was like, even like not in regards to the pacing, there was just so many things that I hated about it. Something that didn't make sense, right, is that, and I put a spoiler warning, right, on the thumbnail, so if you've made it this far, spoilers. Birkin has an underground entrance, like, to his lab, right? And in the Spencer mansion, there is an entrance to the lab. Which, yeah, there's an entrance to the lab in the city and an entrance to the lab in the mansion, but in the games, they are 2 completely separate labs. Here, they're supposed to be the same one, even though the Spencer mansion is in the mountains, miles away from the city. Yet the movie makes us believe that the characters that were in the mansion went underground to the lab and met up with the characters in the city lab. So they walked or ran miles to get there. That would have taken probably hours on foot, unless there was some sort of like transportation that we weren't shown. But that I hadn't even realized until I got home. Like, that just doesn't make sense. William Birkin, after he transforms, he speaks, and he's spouting stupid lines at Chris the entire time, and it's so dumb. It's so dumb. The design isn't good, and he just looks dumb when he's doing it, and it just didn't feel like William Birkin. There's a lot about this movie I don't like. So now we're getting into like the actual plot, like details of the movie. And something I didn't like is that the Redfields, the siblings, Claire and Chris, where they're orphans, which I think is canon. But what isn't is that they were raised in the orphanage by Umbrella, and Umbrella attempted to do experiments on them, which I think is really stupid, and it's wrong. It's really wrong, because the entire thing about Resident Evil is that, at least for like first timers, is that you don't know Umbrella's behind it. Like, especially in the first game, you're exploring the mansion and you're figuring things out as you go. It's not... Claire had no idea what was going on when she got to Raccoon City. All she knew is she got to the city and there were zombies everywhere. She had no clue. She didn't even really... I don't even think had a good idea of what Umbrella was. Chris being suspicious of them, I can understand, but having them be raised by Umbrella, so like Claire is suspicious of them the entire time before everything happens, I think was a really bad move, because it doesn't really match up with the plot of the games at all. And it's okay if you want to switch a few things up, but something like that doesn't make sense. Obviously, the audience going into these movies is going to know Umbrella is behind it, but don't make the characters know that, because it's a big thing when they figure it out. Jill and Wesker have some sort of romance in the movie, and I think that's weird. I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think that's more of a problem for me, because you can do whatever you want with like your characters, with like it was a very like irrelevant thing in the movie. Like, it doesn't really mean anything throughout. It's just like a weird detail, because like, why put it there? And I think it's even a detail that Chris likes Jill. Like, he's trying to get with her. So why don't you just do that? Because that's what, like, as far as I know, that's what the fans want. It means nothing, but it's just a detail that, like, they're, like, kind of a thing. And they have, like, a special kind of relationship. Now, in the games, Jill and Wesker have a special kind of relationship. But it's not like that. So it just felt off. Everything about Wesker felt kind of off. I was actually making a bet with my brother when watching this, because I didn't even think he was going to be evil, because they already strayed so far away and they weren't having him act like Wesker does in the games. Because like, Wesker is like this kind of like detached person in the games, so you kind of like suspect that something's weird about him the entire time. But here he acts like a completely normal person, and then halfway through he reveals he's a mercenary that's trying to steal the G-Virus. So that's a thing, I suppose. I don't like Brian Irons in this movie. I was okay with the idea, at first, that he wasn't evil and he wasn't like a murdering psychopath. I was okay with it at first, but like afterwards, it was weird. It was weird seeing him act the way he does, because he's just roasting the hell out of Leon in the beginning of the movie. And then, like, for the rest of the movie, he's just, like, a background character before he's killed off by the liquor. Like, he's not even, like, an opposing force. Like, they could have made him not evil, but they could have made him, like, an opposing force that kind of, like, the main characters have to, like, argue against or something. But he's just kind of, like, in the background the entire time. And it's weird. Just like everything else in this movie, it's odd. It's an odd decision that they made. William Birkin's daughter, Sherry, was a complete waste of a character. Like, complete waste of a character. She does nothing the entire movie. She has like 5 lines at most. All she does is witness her mom and dad get shot and then get like taken in by the main characters. And that's like when there's like 15 minutes left in the movie. I feel like there's so much more they could have done. Because at that point, why even put her in? Because like, William Birkin's not even pursuing her like he does in the games. There's literally no reason for her to be there. I do not get it. I do not get it. Okay, so the biggest offense. The biggest offense of this movie, and I mentioned it earlier in the review, is Leon. Oh my god, I do not think you could have messed up his character more than you did in this movie. I had no problem with the casting. Like I said, you can make the characters look as different as you want, as long as they act like their characters in the game. And they didn't. They didn't. He didn't. Just to list off the top of my head, without even using my notes, what was wrong with Leon. Leon had no idea how to be a cop. I don't even think he wanted to be a cop. Like, I don't even think he was in his motives, because I think there's like a line somewhere in there, he's like, I don't even know why I'm a cop. Like, Leon in the games is like notoriously a Boy Scout who wants to do the right thing. That's why he shows up to the job, and that's why he keeps fighting during the outbreak in Raccoon City. He's trying to help as many people as he can, and he just wants to do the right thing. And he's good at it. It's not like he's the best. He's a rookie on his first day. But that doesn't mean he sucks at what he does. That just means he's kind of confused in the beginning. This Leon doesn't really know how to handle a gun. He apparently shot his partner in the ass during training. The only reason he became a cop, I think, was because his dad had, like, political power. I think that they mentioned that. It's just like everything about him is wrong. And then in the end, they have him blow up Birkin with a rocket launcher. He's like, I found the rocket launcher in first class. Like, what the hell were they thinking when they wrote Leon? And okay. So my final rating for this movie is a 3 out of 10. It is awful. If you're a Resident Evil fan and you want to have fun and a good laugh, go see it. It's definitely worth it if you like the games. If you don't like the games and you're just willing to have an experience, then also maybe go see it. I feel like the only reason you shouldn't go see this is if you wanted to see it done right. If you want to see Resident Evil treated right, don't go and see it, because you're not going to get that. I'm very, very confused as to why. And I understand that they wanted to do right by the series when making this movie. By the amount of like Easter eggs and references to the games, you could clearly tell that they were doing their best. Their best wasn't enough. They didn't do it right, and that shows when you watch the movie. It's very obvious that something was wrong. A lot is wrong. And I appreciate them trying, at least, because like we haven't gotten a Resident Evil movie, at least not a notable one, since the early 2000s. So I mean, like, it's A for effort, but no. And that really confuses me, because in my head, if you're going to make a movie about a video game, the instructions are laid out in front of you. There's 8 games of material to go off of for Resident Evil. Not even 8. There's like 15 games. And there's if you want to make a story about the first 2 games, there's 2 versions of the first game and like 3 versions of the second game. If you have that much laid out for you as it is, then why is it so difficult to get it right? I want to hear what you guys think in the comments. What'd you think about the movie? What would you rather have changed? What did you think? What do you think about my criticisms? Also, if you liked the movie and you think there's a problem with some of the things I'm saying, definitely let me know, because I'm interested in I haven't really talked about this movie with anybody yet that had also seen it. So if you've seen it, go ahead and let me know. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think about my review. That's what it is, a 3 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good one.